Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Food Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. My name is Andrea Watts, and I am your new host. I do customer marketing here at Cast Iron, and today I'm here with Alisa Woods of Sift and Sprinkle. I'm so excited for you to meet her, hear a little bit about her story. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Alisa to tell us a little bit about herself, her business, what she sells, where you're located, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, so I am located in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm a in-home micro bakery. I got my kitchen licensed. So I have a licensed home bakery. I sell custom cakes. I do macarons. It's kind of like a dessert charcuterie tray, just a whole big pile of goodies that's really popular. And then I also do some wholesale. I have a couple wholesale accounts as well where I sell macarons. Hopefully a couple new ones coming up. Goodness gracious, I am teaching classes at a place down the street. I have started a YouTube channel. Man, I'm starting to think that maybe I'm doing too much. But so I got laid off in 2020, as did many people. I was
Yes.
working in events, sports and events, and no one was going to any sports or events. And so I got laid off, had a brand new baby, was kind of stress baking. I had a history of having baked in the Iowa State Fair. So I was just, stress baking for the fair. And then they canceled the fair and I was stress baking even more with the new baby in the pandemic. And my friends were like, well, can we buy some of those off of you? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. How much do you want to pay me for them? And so that was kind of the way that it started. I was like, well, let me figure this out. Maybe I'll do this until they ask me to come back, till people start going back to events. And about a year later they asked me to go back, and I said, I kind of have this business and it's going well, so I think I'm going to stick it out. So that's how I sort of landed here. And it's been almost 3 years now this summer since I started selling as Sift and Sprinkle.
Amazing. Yeah, it seems like you have a ton of great stuff going on. And I have seen those dessert kind of charcuterie boards, and they look amazing. So I wish I
Thank
was in
you.
Iowa to get one. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll have to
come
come there for that.
visit.
I will. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but was there a moment or anything that you can remember that would really made you kind of take the plunge into going full time with
Yeah.
Sift and Sprinkle?
So kind of the very first thing was I was making things for my family for breakfast because we weren't going out for meals. Just wanted something kind of special every Saturday for breakfast. So I would make donuts, or I would make scones, or I'd make muffins, and I made Pop-Tarts. So just hand pies with frosting on the top. I think it was like a Sally's Baking Addiction recipe that I started with. And I posted a picture of them, and one of my friends was like, I would like to buy some of those as well for my family and my friend Natalie. And I was like, sure. How much do you want to give me for them? And so that was really the first time that I was like, oh, we could probably do this. And I'd had a bakery, in-home bakery, that sort of flopped before my daughter was born. So now going on almost 7 years ago. And it was called Buttery Bun Bakery. And it was really just my friends would order from me and send me a picture of a cake on Pinterest, and I would try and recreate it. And I wasn't making very much money. I hadn't priced anything well. I wasn't taking very good pictures of what I was doing. And so that had kind of flopped, but I always had it in the back of my head that it would be the 5-year plan. That in 5 years I would do it. And then I ended up working at the event center for 9 years. So you can kind of tell how that 5-year plan worked out for me. But when I got laid off, it was I started to answer some of the questions, like, how do people take their kids to swimming lessons if both parents work? I
Yeah.
don't, how do you do that? What do you do when your kid gets off school? What do you do when you're working at concert but your kid gets sick at school? I don't know the answer to any of these questions. What do you do when you want to take 2 weeks off and go to Austin, Texas or something? What do you do when you don't really feel like working at the office? What do you do when you don't feel necessarily safe working at the office because there's a worldwide pandemic? So I started kind of answering some of those questions with, well, you just work for yourself. And I started answering the question, well, if you work, how come I'm working harder but not making any more money at the job that this corporate job that I'm at? And I was like, well, because you don't work for yourself. And so some of those questions that I had been asking myself for a couple years started to be answered by, maybe you should work by yourself, maybe you should be your own boss. And so I think that the moment that Natalie bought those first Pop Tarts from me was that moment that I was like, let me give this a try. And then I put a flash sale for macarons on sale. So I did a dozen macarons. There were 4 different flavors. You would get 3 of each flavor. And I just put a flash sale up. I did a Google form. I put a flash sale up. And I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. And my phone was like, ding, 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 ding. And I was like, what is going on? I'm trying to eat dinner. And I had sold like 40 dozen macarons. And I was
Amazing.
like, oh, amazing. But I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can make 40 dozen macarons by Friday when people want to pick up. So I spent probably 2 years doing pretty regular flash sales. And they were pretty successful. And then the way that the market was after the pandemic and the economy and just everything started to come into play, and I had to pivot a little bit and not do as many flash sales, do more wholesale, got my kitchen license so I could do the wholesale, so I could do some pop-ups, and just sort of rode out the storm of the changing tides when it comes to bakeries and food service and stuff like that, as it came. And that's a really long answer. That's probably my entire 3 years of how did I get to this point. But that's how it started, and I guess this is how it's going.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's funny how things that like you think are like a closed door are really just like 10 open doors.
Yeah.
And even things like the pandemic that are like, I would say like a net negative in
Yes.
mostly like for the
Yes.
economy,
Yes.
are great in like small personal ways because I found that myself too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so you mentioned your friend Natalie was kind of like your first customer.
Mhm.
Um, how did it kind of, you know, move into like the successful business that it is today? Like, how did you move past Natalie? Was it like word of mouth, other friends? Like, what did you do to kind of like foster that growth in the
Yeah.
beginning?
So I when I first started, I was like, okay, Sift and Sprinkle is not going to be buttery and bun bakery. I'm not going to have these crappy pictures that I'm posting online. Everyone is into aesthetic right now. Like, I have to make my stuff look good. And so I bought a backdrop on Amazon. I bought some Etsy presets. I started using Lightroom on my phone, and I had an aesthetic that was working for me and that people started to really like. And so my Instagram started to grow, as did, my customer base with that grew. Google Forms was working for me, sort of. I hired a virtual assistant who was sending my emails and everything. And then I did Bake Fest, I guess it was a year ago, and heard about cast iron. And I was like, I had wanted to build a website, but the other websites that I looked at for e-commerce just weren't quite working the way that I wanted them to. They weren't really set up for people who had bakeries. It's not like I have 20 pairs of shoes that I can just ship out at a moment's notice when somebody purchases them. I have to custom make this cake and stuff like that. And so that's when a lot of the sort of Google Forms and trying to figure out how to get the most information out of somebody in a Google form just sort of transferred over to cast iron, which is what I use now, to sort of run the business, and made it a lot easier. And I give 100% credit to my virtual assistant, who, I don't know if you're out there and you don't have a virtual assistant, find one. Don't take mine, but find one. She gets all of these emails, and it's a, a long email. Hey girly,
Yeah.
I'd love to buy blah blah blah. And she gets all of these emails, or even the requests that she gets through Cast Iron. She puts them in a concise text message, and I respond to it with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then she sends them back. Hey, thanks so much for ordering. Here's the pickup information. You're the best. The weather's great. All the pleasantries that I just don't have the capacity sometimes to do. And she does those for me and sends them out. And it's so pleasant. It's so nice. It makes my work so much easier.
That's amazing. A hot tip I have not heard before. When
Yeah.
did you know, or like what was the point where you're like, okay, I need like a virtual assistant or someone to help me?
I was spending a lot of my evenings responding to emails, um trying to, I can't remember if I had gotten Cast Iron before or after her. I think it was around the same time. But trying to send out these quotes, and trying to follow up and handle Facebook messages and Instagram messages. And I was doing a lot of that between like when my kids went to sleep and when I went to sleep. So like 8 o'clock until 10:30 or so. And it just like wasn't leaving any time for me and my husband. It just wasn't enjoyable. I felt like I was working 24/7, because I would work until I picked up my kids from school, and then I would take a brief break, and then I would make dinner, and then we'd eat dinner, and then we'd get ready for bed, and then I would leave. And it was just like, it was too much. And I used to work with this guy who was like, you need to figure out how much your time is worth, and then see if you can outsource things that basically you pay less for. So
Yeah.
if my time is worth, $60 an hour, just like a number, then if I can find somebody to do it for $40 an hour, then I still have that $20 an hour. Like then it's, I don't know the math. Listen, I'm a baker. I don't know the math. I worked in sports. Don't ask me about math. But if you can find somebody to do things for you, I have my groceries delivered to me, and I'm paying a little bit of a tip every time that they do it. But in general, the time it would take me to drive out to the grocery store, pick up the groceries every time I needed groceries, and drive back, the things that I can do in that time, the macarons I can make in that time,
Yeah.
are so much more worth it. And so for me, that evening time is worth $1 million to me, because
Yeah.
that's the time that I have with my husband, and that's the time that I have to do the things that I want to do, to go to get a couple drinks with friends, or
Yeah.
to like spend some time outside. That time, and like any parents who are listening probably know, like that little time after your kids go to sleep and when you get to go to sleep is so precious. And I just didn't want to spend that time working, because I had quit a job. Well, I had not quit. They made me leave, I guess. But I had turned down going back to a job that I was working nights and weekends at. And so I was like, if I'm in charge of my hours here, then I want to work the hours that I want to work, not these crazy late hours. So
That's amazing. So lets you kind of focus on the things that you love, whether it's like personal or like baking or whatever.
yeah.
Um, that sounds amazing and something our audience I feel like would love to hear.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit about like Instagram in the beginning, kind of growing. Like, have you seen that kind of continue over your time, the last few years, or what has been like the thing that you focused on to kind of get, the word out, or to grow even more?
Yeah, so when I first started, I was very consistent with my posting. I would post between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock every morning, maybe take one of the weekend days off. But I started to get to a point where the algorithm knew when I was going to be posting and what I was going to be posting. I was engaging with people who commented pretty much immediately, and so the algorithm was giving me thumbs up for that. I was engaging with my community outside of my posts. So I was, going to their pages and engaging with them. Every time that I followed somebody that I really wanted to make sure to to work with, or that I just wanted to stay in touch with, I would add notifications. So whenever they sent me, or whenever they posted, even if it had nothing to do with me, if they posted stories or if they posted on their feed, then it would notify me and I could go there immediately and give them feedback, or, engage with them as they were posting, or just keep up with what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that has led to some great relationships that I have, um some opportunities, some wholesale opportunities. It's led to a lot of things. It's kind of like my own little like list of 100 people that I want to work with, but I have the notifications set up so I can meet them where they're at, so I can kind of cheer them on. Because I mean, isn't that it, like exactly the friend that you want to have? It's the one that's cheering you on. And so if I see somebody that I really want to cheer on, I'm like, sweet, let me set notifications. I think this could lead to somewhere. So a lot of that stuff I still use. I think that as Instagram, as some of us probably know, changed a lot of their algorithm and a lot of the things that they found most important to reels and videos and stuff like that. I slowed down a little bit on Instagram, because at that point I had as many sales as I wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
I, of course, would love more followers just to see that number go up. But then when I kind of reflected on it, it was like, what am I going to do as that number goes up? Is it just like a giant diamond ring on my finger? Is it
Yeah.
just to be flashy? And so I started to kind of step back and say, okay, instead of just posting every single solitary day, instead of engaging with as many people as you can, let's do this a little more strategically. It's kind of similar to the way that I found my virtual assistant. When I get to a point where I feel like I'm doing things just out of feeling like I should be doing them, then let's switch it around and do things that really like get me excited. And so I've slowed down a little bit. I've started to make some reels, but just ones that I think that are really funny, fun, cool, interesting, whatever. I still post as often as I feel led to. If there's a cake that I really love, I'm going to post it. I'm not going to post every single cake because I don't want to remake every single cake.
Yeah.
If I'm like, gosh, that was a really like difficult cake to make, I'm not going to post it again because maybe I didn't enjoy making
Yeah.
it. And I can't think of one of those right now, so I'm not thinking of any in particular. But I don't know, just kind of, I got to a point with my Instagram where growing my Instagram was purely just something to show other people. And that's when I was like, step back a little bit. See, if it's putting money in your pocket, great. Yeah, grow it.
Yeah.
If it's bringing you friendships, and like, yeah, grow it. But if it's just something that you want to show off to people, let's settle down a little bit with that.
Yeah. I love that. So really asking yourself, like, why are you doing things and not
Yeah.
just doing them?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good life advice too.
I have all the advice.
So obviously we know you here at Cast Iron and you've created this successful business for yourself. What would you give other entrepreneurs that are just kind of starting off? Like, what advice would you give them about taking that next step?
So I have a lot of people who come to me and ask me questions, and they say, well, how do you edit your videos? Like how do you edit your pictures? How do you make your macarons? How do you, like, all of these things? And it's like, I took a lot of time the last 3 years on YouTube. I took a lot of time on Instagram. I took a lot of time TikTok. Like, I took a lot of time watching things, learning things. And there's no quick way to get to where I'm at. It's going to take you 3 years. I could tell you all of those things.
Yeah.
But it's the repetition of doing it. And so I think that if you're looking at me and you're like, well, I want to get to where she is next week, it's like, oh, that's going to be tough. Like, I can't tell you how to do that. I can tell you how to get to where I'm at in 3 years, but I don't think that that's what you want to hear. I don't think that that's if you're asking me how to do something, it's the long game, really.
Yeah.
And look it up on YouTube if you don't know how to do something. The only things that okay, I have this personality trait where I think I can do everything. Like build
Love
a
it.
fence, yeah, I can do that. Change a tire, pull up YouTube. Like world peace, I got you. I could figure this out. So I just like I think I can do everything. The only things that I can't do are the things that I can't explain to you what's wrong, because then I can't Google it.
Yeah.
So I like be curious, go figure it out. Look it up on Google, look it up on YouTube, look it up on Instagram, just start learning. Cast Iron has had a couple people come and speak, and I really think that those things are interesting to listen to, people who have gotten to where they're at,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to probably take you as long, maybe longer than it took them. Bakefest is where I found Cast Iron, and I learned so much from that that I could take away. I'm just always trying to learn new things. And then on the other hand, don't do what I'm doing, because you're not going to do it the same way that I do it. And I'm not going to say you're not going to do it as well as I'm going to do it, but just don't try and be me. Try and be yourself. Come up with your
Yeah.
own flavors. Come up with something that gets you excited. I can tell you where I get my packaging, and you can put your macarons in the same exact packaging as I am, but like what why would you want to do that? Find some
Yeah.
cool packaging, like look into it. There's 1,000 different places you could get packaging. So I think that being a baker is such an art form, and you have to like manipulate it, and you have to curate it, and you have to figure out what your art form is. And then unfortunately you also have to work the business on the back end, but I guess that's where like cast iron comes
Yeah.
in handy. But find the things that get you excited, and I guess outsource the rest
Yeah.
is maybe what I'm trying to say.
I love that. Be curious, be yourself, get a virtual assistant to outsource the,
Yes.
outsource the
Yeah.
rest, that kind
Yeah.
of a thing. Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our longer questions. So we like to do a lightning round at the end here. So
Okay.
quick answers, couple words or sentence, and that'll kind of close it out. Does that work for
I know it probably doesn't work because I'm very long-winded, but okay, go ahead.
Awesome. So first one, what are your favorite resources to help you run your business or create new products?
YouTube, Instagram.
Love it. What are other business owners you admire? Who are a few?
I mean, the ones here in Des Moines really are the ones that I really, really admire. So, like Bread by Chelsea, Pie Bird's Pies are doing cool things. We talked before this interview about Cherry Bomb. Love Cherry Bomb. Love a lot of the old Bon Appetit people. We talked about Molly Baz, Claire Saffitz. We love Brad Leone. Um, so many. I mean, those are the ones that pop into my head. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I really love. I'm looking over here at my cookbooks. I love Maddie Matheson. Oh my gosh. I really love Aisha Curry. That's maybe the
Yeah,
outlier. I love Aisha Curry. And
her
I just think
cookbooks are
that
good.
I just think she's like cool. And she has
She
those like
is.
Chrissy Teigen vibes where it's like,
Yeah,
maybe you don't necessarily belong here, but I dig that you've made your little space
yeah,
here, because I don't really belong here. Like I didn't go to culinary school, but I'm here and I'm gonna stay
yeah.
here. So
I love that. um, what are you most proud of in life or in business?
I feel like the cliche thing is my kids, but I really am like super proud of them, and like the way that they value leadership and the way that they value learning and curiosity is something that I'm really proud of. My friendships, I'm super proud of. I think I have some really, really cool friends.
Yeah,
I'm also really proud that I like made it this far after getting laid off. So
yeah, you
we're
should be.
here. We're
That's
out here.
amazing. Yeah. Um, so the last one is share the love. Who else should we spotlight in this series? And this
Oh
doesn't have to be cast
man.
iron specific or anything like that.
I mean, I already said like Bread by Chelsea, Pirates Pies, people here in Des Moines. I honestly think that Des Moines has such an incredible community of makers and bakers. We're all supporting each other. Domestic Bones is another one, Kim, that I really, really love. It's a joke, like we're a flyover state. I get it. But man, if you come to Des Moines, you're going to eat some really good food. You're going to meet some interesting people. We're not even trying to be. We're just like living our authentic lives here. And in the summer, we break out of hibernation and start to eat some awesome, cool, good food.
I love that. And I have been to Des Moines and I
Oh,
ate some
yeah?
great food. So yeah.
Good. I
Um,
love that.
and then lastly, where can our audience find you?
So I am on Instagram, Sift and Sprinkle. I am on Facebook. I will tell you, if you message me on Facebook, it is my virtual assistant who will respond to you. And she's lovely. And she will respond to you in my voice. So you'll never know. Also Sift and Sprinkle. Siftandsprinkle.com is my website. So you can see what I have for sale. I don't ship, unfortunately. So you'll have to come here to Des Moines to buy from me. And then I did start a YouTube page. That's just youtube.com/sift and sprinkle. I have like 5 or 6 videos up, but I think they're fun and I'm enjoying that.
Yes, I checked it out before we talked today, so everyone else should. It is super fun. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I learned a lot. I know our audience will. And just thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.